to be at Sully's, just a little while. All right, the red light is on. We are on. This is the Goffstown Planning Board. It is our regular monthly meeting for the fourth Thursday of the month. We have a completeness review conditional use permit hearing application before us, some other business to do, and before we get going, in case you're watching and wondering, the application has been withdrawn, so there is not going to be any presentation to the board nor any need for any action from this board. I'll get into the specifics of the map and lot when we get there. Before we start any business, let me have everybody identify themselves, please. Jonathan, can we start with you?
I'm Jonathan Rourke, the Planning and Economic Development Director.
Chad Bowman, alternate.
David Pierce, Selectman's representative.
Gayla Bruck, alternate and recording secretary.
My name is Barbara Griffin.
Philip Devanza.
Kimberly Peace.
Tim Redmond.
Jim Raymond.
Michael Conlon.
Thank you, everybody. The first item that we usually deal with are action items. And in that regards, we have two sets of minutes to deal with. The minutes of March 23rd. There had been a correction submitted by one of our members, Michael Conlon. Michael, you weren't able to be here last meeting. Every time we don't see you, we just smile at the thought of a baby at home, just so you know. And so we decided to continue that to a meeting that you were in attendance. So do I have any motions in regards to the minutes of March 23rd?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Was I there? If I was there, I'll second it.
Well, you can say that. Michael, did you want to speak to the changes that you sent in?
Yeah, I can try to re-summarize. We were discussing the proposed guidelines for the Board of Selectmen regarding erection of buildings on Class 6 and private roads. And I had made a comment that I thought that erection of buildings, including change of use of existing structure and expanded use of existing structure, seemed outside the scope of what one would normally define as an erection of buildings. And in the minutes, it just said erection of buildings twice. So I was just wanting to change that to, the change of use or expansion of use seems to be outside the definition of erection of buildings. And I forget
Okay.
where exactly that was in the minutes, but I believe Gail has that.
Right. Okay. And you had emailed that comment to everybody on the board, so that's why everybody had it. And Gail has the change. Does anybody else have? It wasn't so much that you were talking about what the definition of erection of buildings was, it was that you had also said as to expansion of use, and we're fixing that in the minutes, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It was just a misrecording.
Okay. Does your motion include that change?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. And I apologize, second, Gail? Was it
Over
right?
here.
I'll second.
Kimberly. Is there any further discussion on the minutes of March 23rd? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, it carries. The other minutes that need to be dealt with are of our last meeting, April 13th. Those were included in the information that was mailed to you for this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes of April 13th, 2017 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining.
Abstaining.
Abstain.
Got it? David, Kimberly, Michael. The next items would, for the action items on our agenda, I'm just going to move so we officially continue this meeting. Map 7, Lot 73-2 has been scheduled for a completeness review conditional use permit hearing for a proposal to add a family group daycare business as an accessory use to an existing single-family home. Given our current zoning rules, that requires a current use permit, as that is in an R1 district. Jonathan, you want to update the board on that?
Yes. The applicant has since withdrawn their request. They wish to dial down what they're doing to go into conformance with the home occupation. That is why they're not continuing with the conditional use permit.
Does anybody have any questions for Jonathan on that? All right, so that is officially off our list in the planning board. Have they formally withdrawn it?
They have formally withdrawn it. I have it in writing.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jonathan? All right, so that issue is moot and no longer before us. So if anybody had any questions about that, or what, ratcheting it down, I think, is what Jonathan said, they can just call the applicant and find out what's going on. All right, back to action items. Listed number 3 is election of officers. This is something we typically do every year after our March election, and I believe new members have all been sworn in. It's actually taken a few meetings to get everybody here since that. Do I have any nomination for the election of officers?
I move that we elect Barbara as chair.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further nominations for chair? I will take that as overwhelming enthusiasm for the job. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries unanimously. I won't abstain. We have a vice chair. The vice chair's role is to conduct meetings in lieu of my presence. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Tim Redmond for vice chair.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second. Discuss it.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Any discussion? Jim?
Well,
This is a close group. In the past, and I hate to cite the past, we tried to rotate, this, Phil might remember this, Barbara, for you, positions. Except usually we'd let the chair stay on until the chair was worn out.
That is sort of what happens on this board, isn't it?
Wow.
And part of the purpose of that was to let everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have the chance to run meetings. And Phil's done that. I'm not speaking against anybody, but to explain my view of that you do want to rotate among people, but I don't want to let Barbara off the hook, which maybe makes Phil the sacrificial victim in this case. But I think it is worth letting other people fill that role. Now, I don't want to ever do it again because I was a chair for a lot of years. A lot of fun, but and I don't know if Phil would agree that it's worth. It's an education sitting there, and people should have that chance. If you go up to be the real chair, you want to have the chance to think twice before you have to do that because it's a lot of work. But I still think that's a good policy. But I don't want people to think, we're unhappy with anybody that's doing it. They're all pretty capable, including Phil. I don't know if you can accept that, Phil.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my thinking if we met.
So to follow up on Jim's comments, if we are going to follow our past practices and our procedures, then I will decline the nomination.
the tension builds.
And I will nominate Phil Devanza for vice chair.
I guess I don't understand if you were following that logic.
It sounds to me Jim's logic is that as we progress through the chair, vice chair procedure,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what were you saying then? Were you saying
No,
that?
I think it's worth everybody running a meeting occasionally, and the vice chair gets that chance.
I thought Jim was saying that we normally rotate officers except for the chair of the planning board, which we let sit here until...
That's different than meaning if you're vice chair, you automatically become chair. That's a
Well, I thought
different
that was
discussion.
your meaning,
No,
that
it
you
isn't.
No, that wasn't what he would...
It's sort of quite the opposite. I think everybody should run the meeting as vice chair. I think choosing who's going to be the chair, who's going to be silly enough to volunteer to be the chair, is a different discussion. But I think it'd be worth having all of us, all of you, not me, I had my chance,
I've done it too.
be vice chair and run the meeting occasionally, because you develop a different perspective on how the board, and you really you think in a different way, and that's, I think Phil's had the opportunity to do this for a while, and it's probably beneficial. I think, I'm looking around the room, the rest of you should have a chance.
And I've been vice chair and chair in my time here.
Maybe? Yep. Well, I've been that.
So I'll second the nomination of Phil.
But I think what Jim is saying is, do we want to give people like Kim a chance, or Michael a chance, or someone else to learn the ropes, is what
We
I'm...
could also look at our rules of procedure and pick a chair pro tem, and when I can't make to a meeting, I just pick somebody.
You could do that, yeah.
I mean, couldn't we do that?
Yeah,
I'm not here regularly enough to take a position because I just
Right.
have too many.
I might be up for it next year, but I think this year is not a good one for me.
Right.
There's not a lot of glory that comes with being a
I,
vice chair. Except for maybe Phil got a lot of glory out of it, but
There is no glory. You just-
all right.
So,
Phil, Tim.
I've confused the whole process.
You did confuse the whole process, so I'm going to ask you not to say anything when I ask the following questions. Phil, are you okay if Tim takes the nomination?
It doesn't matter.
I didn't think so. So Tim, having understood that you didn't understand what Jim was saying, are you okay with the nomination for vice chair?
I am okay with the
Jim didn't
nomination.
express himself very
Okay, all right. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? I may not make Sully's at this rate. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's
You do that in
unanimous.
court, you can do that.
Congratulations.
We just voted in
With
Tim.
facts, you baffle them with the BS.
All right, and now having just talked about Tim, let's talk about CIP. CIP letters went out from Patty. Tim is leading the charge again for us, and,
Jim has also volunteered to be an alternate in my absence.
okay. And Jonathan, we need a couple more members, right?
Yes.
All right, so who do we need?
It's members at large, Gail and Ray.
All right, has anybody else come forward to volunteer for this position?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, because Gail and Ray have served before, and they're valuable assets to the committee, but if other people want to serve on it and had expressed an interest, I wanted to know, but you haven't, and that's been out there for a while now.
Do we need a motion on this, or is it just a straight appointment by the chair?
I think we need a motion to appoint them. That's my recollection of the
So
experience.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Gail LeBrecq and Raymond Labor to the CIP committee as members, community members at large.
Second?
At-large members, whatever it is.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries. When is the first meeting, Tim?
I don't know. We haven't received our package yet.
May 19th?
Somewhere around there.
You know, anybody can come to these meetings. They're televised. They're in this room. They are extremely interesting to get a perspective on the department's long-term plans, capital plans. You know, it's actually a very good introduction also to the schools, because you do hear school by school what's going on, as compared to, say, from the towns, which is more of a department and may have different locations. Tim?
So for Jonathan, I read an email that we have a budget committee member that's going to take Michael Smith's place.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a school board, have they assigned anyone yet?
I'm not sure. I can find out and get back to you on that.
Because we do need to know about them.
Just so the packets can get put together and out for that first meeting.
And everyone should know that Earl Carroll, our longest-serving CIP member, longer than, probably since the inception of CIP, has moved with his family to another town, and he's no longer on CIP. And I'd like to publicly thank Earl Carroll for his guidance as vice chair for as many years as I've served on it. He's always been there, and he's been a very skilled member of the committee, and he's always been right on point for everything. I'd like to thank him publicly.
Thank you for mentioning that.
He told me the only way he could figure out how to get off of it was to move out of town.
Well, that's probably true.
And that is all the official business that I have for tonight. We do have a meeting on May 11th in regards to a scenic road public hearing. I have to admit, I'm a little confused as to why it's known as a scenic road public hearing. Tim?
I asked Jonathan about that question. I'll let Jonathan answer.
Okay.
Things?
BSNA, or Eversource,
Eversource.
excuse me. They're going to be doing some selective clearing for the utilities, and speaking earlier that they're it would be requested previously in the past that they go out and mark all the trees, they're arborist, and we can pass on the specific information, the exact locations to the board so they can have time to go over, before the presentation.
I need to tell you, and I am a little embarrassed about this, but I thought we had 2 scenic roads in town, and Laurier Street was not one of them.
No, that's.
That's
for-
Ernie's,
different
that's a
thing?
different application.
Yeah.
Right,
I think those are
okay,
pretty
so when you do the notice, can you do the scenic road public hearing for the road and put it on it so that people are clear what it is? Because I think that's what it looks like.
Right, I
Okay.
took
Yeah,
it the
absolutely.
same way.
Which are scenic roads?
There's Shirley Hill and Merrill.
Right.
And I mean, it's pretty typical public hearing that occurs, but it does look, that's
have-
why I said,
We have more than that. We have Fersen Road as a scenic road.
is Fersen scenic too?
Yeah, because I remember we had a public hearing for line clearing on Fersen Road about 8 years ago or so.
No, we have had, now that you mention it, we have.
And we had a public hearing for your street when the town wanted to work on your road. I think that's the
Right, and
last two
Shirley,
that I...
and Shirley Hill, I think
Right.
there's been one about the same time as Fersen, because I think they did it about the same time.
You see, I don't...
All right.
I would check
Okay,
into that.
well,
But I
it's
did
not
request,
relevant.
I did make a request to Jonathan to have Eversource make sure all the trees are clearly marked that they want to remove so that board members and the public know what they are prior to the meeting.
But what scenic road are we talking about?
I'll forward the information
Okay.
to the board.
All right. All right. And there is some correspondence in the file, if anybody wants to take a look at it. The regional impact notice from the town of Hooksett refers to, what does that refer to, Jonathan? Is that the development or not?
It was.
No, that doesn't, that development doesn't go into
I didn't-
Dunbarton.
I didn't think it abutted Dunbarton.
Yeah. Must be another one.
I was actually taking notes when you mentioned that earlier.
What is the regional impact notice from Hooksett in this week's intent?
Townsend, Dunbar, regional impact notice of the town of West. It must be different than our last,
It is.
I have not read that yet, or reviewed
Okay.
that yet.
All right, it's in the file. It looks like it's an internal lot line adjustment request that is between the two towns. Okay. All right, so that is all the business that we had. I had asked, because it's so early and I can still get to Sully's.
Yeah.
I had previously talked to Jim Raymond about right-to-know issues. I'm running into them a lot with some other things that I'm doing, and usually there's some sort of workshop every couple of years, and we haven't done one here on this board in quite a while, and we haven't been that busy, so it hasn't been an issue. But Jim, I know your firm does a lot of work for towns, and, is there sort of an overview you can give of
Yeah, I'm going to give you if you're old enough to remember this, the Extreme Reader's Digest version of the workshop, which normally takes up a meeting. It's going to take about 4 minutes. Because we're going to get to Sully's.
They're open till 8.
But the Right to Know Act 91, RC 91A, it's in your books, has been the subject of a lot of continuing attention and lawsuits, including against a lot of our town clients, which has a few consequences. One, it's expensive for the town. And two, if you start at the back of 91A and look at the remedy section, Section 8, there's some teeth to it, including award of attorney's fees if somebody brings a 91A action. And you can be fined between $250 and $2,000. Now, I'm not sure we've had anybody ever be individually fined, but there's some personal liability I'd hope the town might pay.
And I will tell you that there was an effort in Concord to significantly increase the penalties in that statute this past session. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it is on the radar for groups so that there could be, even when there was an unintentional failure to respond, a mandatory award of attorney's fees assessed against a town on behalf of its members or its boards.
Suffice it to say that there are certain people of certain political persuasions who want to make it more difficult for towns to conduct their business. And this is one vehicle for them to do it, let's call it. But the real purpose behind the legitimate purpose behind the right to know law is that the concept that all governmental decision-making is done in the open, in public meetings. And that sounds easy, but then you think, how do you apply it? There's really two components to the act. One is public meetings. The second is disclosure of minutes and records. And we're really dealing here with the public meetings portion first. But the general rule is set out in section 2, that all meetings are open to the public. Now, what's a meeting? If I meet Tim at the dump, or he comes over to bulldoze our driveway and we talk planning board, that's considered a chance social encounter. No quorum present, it's not called to conduct business. That's not. But if 4 of us happen to meet at Sully's every Saturday, coincidentally, and talk with it, that probably is.
And just so everybody knows, those issues have been raised in this town before about people having these incidental meetings and how incidental they were.
Yeah. I mean, more direct example, we used to go on site walks. They weren't noticed hearings. Well, that's a meeting. Yeah, we're showing up. That's an easy one. Like, we used to ignore it.
So site walks become noticed events?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they've been noticed events
Yeah,
for a long
in the
time.
old days, we didn't. So that, if you bump into Tim at the dump, or can't call it that, this recycling center.
Transfer station.
You can mention, but if you're there every Saturday talking about the planning board, yeah. Okay, where it becomes a problem, though, and I'm going to go right to the point, if you look in your book it's under, first you look under section 2, and it's the one on page 95. They got 2 kind of sections. One became effective in January 1, 2017. Look at that one. It's a meeting, really, in person, by means of telephone or electronic communication, or any other manner in which all participating members are able to communicate with each other contemporaneously. The word there is are able to, even if you're not. So what's the obvious form of new communication that's now picking up that we sometimes abuse? On telephone, that's easy, that's old-fashioned. Chat, what's the new form that you don't even remember when it didn't exist anymore?
What, email?
Email.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're communicating by email, that can be deemed a meeting. And if you're discussing anything, and that's the danger. And then if you go, they've enacted in 2008, 2A, section 2A. It says, you may deliberate only in a meeting. Well, what's a deliberation? What do you think a deliberation is, Chad? Because I knew you're the new guy.
A deliberation?
Yeah.
Something you're doing deliberately?
Well, more than that, it's a discussion. It's a discussion. If you're discussing, now let's say Jonathan sends out a notice by email, the meeting will be starting an hour late. Is that a deliberation?
No.
No. What if Jonathan sends out an email and the meeting's going to start an hour late and the applicant is a scumbag, and what do you think about that? Is that now a deliberation?
Yes, because
Here, let me give you the
you
wrong
cannot
answer.
express, you should not be expressing a view, yea or nay, on some issue that is going to come before the board.
In fact, I would dial it back even more. You should not even be, not expressing, but saying anything about the merits of anything that going to come before us by email. Because that constitute a deliberation. So, Patty sends out, are you going to be at the meeting? Yes. That's okay. You send back, and Patty, what do you think about this application? That's not okay. And you're saying, I just sent it to Patty. But whenever you send an email, you have to assume it goes everywhere in the world, right? And everybody sends reply to all. Automatically, that's hitting a quorum. And that's what we do. So the rule is, don't discuss anything about substance. Anything that gets beyond, are you going to be at the meeting? Yes. Or here's the agenda, or here's the minutes, look at them. Once Jonathan sends you the minutes, or Patty sends you the minutes, and you send back a comment about the minutes, what is that?
That's a deliberation.
That could be deemed a deliberation. So when should you bring up your comments?
Here.
Here, in public. That's the base rule. All has to happen in public. And I know we tend to say, and we do it all the time, but we shouldn't, is, you want to correct the minutes in the emails. I don't think you should. And if you look at RSA Section 2A, Roman numeral 2, communications outside a meeting, including but not limited to sequential communication. Remember earlier it said contemporaneous. Now they've expanded it to sequential, which picks up the email from me to Tim to the good-looking guy in the corner, to the not-so-good-looking guy over there, to Barbara, to Kimberly. That's a sequential email. So you can't get around the contemporaneous rule by, passing it around. So don't do that. But the basic rule is any email now is suspect. So you can't circumvent the purpose. And the cases that we have involve, a lot of them do involve email discussions. And that's in both the judges' minds and the legislature's minds. So please, don't. Now, what happens if you do? Remember that thing about the penalties? The courts are going to say you shouldn't. Second is those become public records that are, the applicant can, or somebody, anybody, can request a copy of all the emails. And we've made them a public record by sending them around. So anything you say by email involving the board, assume, that's the assumption, even if it's about meeting is going to be posted, assume that is a public record and somebody can request copies, which means going into your own server and getting them. So don't is the basic rule. Now, the kind of the scope of this has expanded over the last several years, but this is now the focus. And we do it because it's so easy, but the basic rule is don't communicate.
So I just asked Jim to review that, and I will tell you in the town where it just recently happened, and this is why it came to my mind, is on the continued town meeting election of March. There were right-to-work requests sent to communities who continued their meetings all over the state. And in often those cases, it was a substantial production requirement because of, in that particular case, there was lots going on by email. So it can pop up in the oddest ways, so just be cognizant of it. It's a good thing for every board to consider, but it is sort of why you get to meetings and you're sort of like, why is this just coming up now? It's just coming up now because this is where we do our business. Tim?
I was going to ask Jim, you mentioned phone calls, you mentioned emails. Are text messages going to fall into that category?
What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just asking you. 'cause
No,
you didn't- you-
I
you
don't
didn't-
give you answers, I just ask questions.
You didn't mention it.
What do you think, Kimberly?
Yes.
Are you
Yeah.
sure you're not a counselor? What do you think?
Does that bother you? No, assume any form of carrier pigeon, text messages.
But speaking to each other
Well-
is covered if it's incidental, chance meeting, one-on-one, and I'm bumping these on.
What's the risk of texts or emails? I send an email to Chet. If I see you at Sully's, or you come over to look at our driveway cracks, and I say something to you, who hears that?
Just the two of us.
All the deer that are munching Jane's garden to her. But that's it. I send an email to Chet,
You don't know who he's going to forward it to.
yeah, you gotta assume that's going to the whole world. And that's why emails and text messages are particularly dangerous. Emails more so.
Chet didn't like what you said, so he forwards it to the whole
Well, yeah,
world.
it's,
Apple
yeah,
can leak it.
it's not.
They're hackable.
Yeah, the right,
They're hackable,
it's not
that's right.
discoverable in lawsuits, and it's a 91A, you have to disclose it, it's disclosable. That's different than discovery from a lawyer's standpoint. Yeah, anything like that, they can, and we've had that threat.
You said 4 minutes.
My time.
He charges by the hour.
I know, right?
Yeah, he was here on time tonight. Come on.
Okay,
You know
everybody get
that-
it?
The time
Get it.
warp.
Got it.
The time warp continuum is in place. He was here by 7
Let's have a
o'clock.
roll call. Everybody
It
got
must
it?
be because it's light out and everybody wants to get home while it's light out this time of year.
I
Kimberly,
just
did
have
you-
to say, Patty does a great job of, the Conservation Commission has a bad habit of trading emails too much, and she squelches us, so she's very on top of it. So, she does a good job.
Does anybody else have anything to say? Thank you, Jim, for bringing that up. It is a little different for a municipality, and it is sort of the new way
Everyone
of
should-
communicate.
I think it should be recognized that we didn't have to pay Bill Drescher for that opinion, because Jim provided it free of charge.
But I will tell you, the last right-to-work request was apparently sent to him. I
You say
still
right
haven't,
to- Right to work or right to?
right to know, excuse me, right to know request was sent to council. And I still haven't figured out why that happened, but,
Okay.
you know, so
I should say you are
it
saying
piles
so.
on. So anyways, so we have a public hearing, an application, and 2 applications next meeting. The deadline for submitting things for the next meeting, I believe, is probably tomorrow. So it can go out.
Last week.
And, all right, so any other business for the
Motion to
board?
adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming tonight.